So thank you so much, Samir, for joining us for the Success Story series. Before we get started, if you could just tell us a little bit about your background, your work experience.
Right. So I did my electrical engineering from NIT Durgapur
Mm,
in 2014.
mm,
So in terms of experience, it's been around almost 7 years now.
mm,
And for about 2 years, I worked in Oracle. And for the last 5 years, I've been working with different startups in business development, sales, and operations roles.
mm,
So the idea of GMAT majorly came in 2020 only, when the entire COVID situation was happening, and I figured that it might be a good time to take a break and to actually go in for the MBA, because I had been putting it on the back burner for some time now. So
mm. Right. So you said almost 7 years of experience in
yeah,
business.
yeah.
Okay. So, why does this thought process of, MBA come to your mind?
So I had actually, like, always, even when I was in college, I had always thought of getting an MBA or getting a business degree. But once I started working in startups, and once you are actually there and building a business, that sort of need for an MBA sort of took a backseat. But over the years, I kind of figured out that yes, you need a network of people whom you can reach out to. So if something like COVID happens again or anything happens again, you need a network of people that you can reach out to, and you can get a job through their reference. Otherwise, it's only the handful of people that you know.
Correct.
So that was the main reason for me to actually go for an MBA right now.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So, how do you manage studying along with work? Because that is one of the major challenges that most people have, right? So, how do you plan that out?
So to be honest, it was a challenge. Like, it was a big thing, because finding time is not very, like, you cannot find a regular time.
Mm,
So in my case, since I am working with US projects and US timings, so I would normally end my day in the morning around 6 a.m. After that, I'll take a couple of hours and then study.
mm,
So that also helped me in a sense, where my actual GMAT was also in the morning slot.
mm.
So I had a sense that, okay, during this 8 a.m., 9 a.m. time period, my entire preparation was also in that time. So it helped me better in the exam also.
Right. And how did you get to know about Crackverbal?
So I actually got to know about it from my sister.
Okay.
She had actually taken up the classroom classes
Mm,
in Bangalore. But apart from that, like, when I was researching about GMAT and everything, so I came across a lot of videos on YouTube about, let's say, the ISB application strategy. Arun sir and Shrikant, they had a couple of videos, couple of application sessions.
mm,
So that seemed informative to me in the sense that uh, the plan or the idea about how to go about it was very clear.
right.
So that's when I actually thought of going with Crackverbal.
Right. So, Samir, in terms of your GMAT preparation, right? In the beginning, did you spend some time doing some kind of self prep, or were you very clear that you wanted to focus on taking a course and then go ahead with the plan around it? How was your approach towards the test?
Yeah, so initially, like, I thought of going throughout the prep on my own, because, like, I have been good with math, so to speak. English or verbal was the only section where I felt that I might need some help. So initially, I got all the Manhattan books and everything in place, and I thought I'll go about it on my own. But after around 7, 8 days, 10 days, what what I was stuck with was, what do you actually study? Because even when it comes to quant, like, even in algebra, whatever we have been taught in school, it's way more beyond than what you actually need for the GMAT. So when it came to quant, cutting down on things that you don't actually have to study,
Mm,
and within verbal, how do you actually find easier ways to solve, rather than looking at every possible option, looking at every possible rule that is there. So I think it took me around 10 to 15 days. to figure out that no, I'll need help,
Hmm.
that's when I thought of enrolling myself.
Right. So, in terms of your GMAT prep, right? What you said, quant was something which is you were anyway comfortable with, and
Yeah.
verbal was your major pain point. What was your main problem initially with the verbal aspect of it? Like in CR, SCRC, where
So
were you usually finding it tough?
yeah, so for me, I think the biggest problem was like I have been someone who reads a lot when it comes to books or when it comes to newspapers or everything. I
Mm,
have I have been reading regularly at least 20 minutes or 10 minutes every day
mm,
from from whatever I can remember.
mm,
But the problem that I was facing was that whenever I would look at a particular question, let's say a sentence correction question is there. So once I would read the sentence, there would be an instinctive feeling that, okay, this is wrong over here. It should be this.
mm,
Sometimes that would be there in the options. Sometimes it may not be there in the options, or it may be termed differently in the options.
mm,
So that was the biggest challenge for me. SC was the biggest thing because CR and RC was still much easier to comprehend, because at the end of the day, it's you're reading something, you have to make sense of it, and then you have to answer.
mm,
But within sentence correction, all the different rules that are there versus instinctively what you are getting as an answer or the right statement, that was something that I had to work on.
right, right. So, in terms of the course, right, what
Yeah.
changed your perspective and, what do you think aligned you towards the test?
So, I think first thing was the direction, because it helped me understand, okay, what I have to actually focus on, what I actually have to study, what I can neglect, both in quant as well as in verbal.
Mm,
Second, especially in the verbal section, it helped me get an idea of what all different types of situations can be there,
mm,
and accordingly, then I could focus more on those particular cases.
mm,
So once, like let's say within quant as well, I was going through some data sufficiency questions,
mm,
and I thought I had solved it correctly within 30 seconds.
mm,
Then the explanation said that, okay, you've considered only one case where you've taken integers.
mm,
What about fractions?
mm,
What about decimals? What about irrational numbers, right? So that sort of helped me understand that, okay, it's not just about solving it correctly, but you have to look at various other possible scenarios that can be there.
mm,
Same with verbal when it came to critical reasoning, the different types that are there.
mm,
So how do you actually look at each particular type? How do you look at the passage and identify that, okay, this is what the question is going to be about? So in terms of direction, it helped me a lot. And secondly, like in terms of understanding that, okay, this is where I need to focus more, this is where I am still okay, and I can probably look at it in the mock tests. So
right,
that helped me a lot.
right. How did you plan your preparation? Like, did you do, every day you used to study, or you said this many hours a week I would plan? How did you go about doing that?
So I used to try to get in at least 2 hours every day
Mm,
after work.
mm,
Sometimes it would be half an hour only. Sometimes I would just miss it because the day was too hectic.
mm,
But yeah, that was the idea that, okay, I'll at least try and give 2 hours a day. And for us specifically, weekends aren't really a thing. No, so working on Sundays also.
mm,
So the idea was that consistent 2 hours is something that I have to give.
mm,
And initially, I focused on quant because that was a strong point. I thought I'll run through the entire quant thing in 20 days, 25 days.
mm,
And then I gave around 1.5 months for verbal.
mm.
And after that, I took around 15, 20 days just for the mock tests.
Okay. So you first focused on quant, got that out of the way, and then you
Yeah,
focused on mobile. That's
yeah,
how you planned your preparation.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. So how many more? So once you say you were done with verbal, when did you feel you were like done with it? Like what was your uh, cut?
So
Cutting point.
yeah, so I went through all the videos almost twice. I went through the official guide almost twice. Apart from that, like I said, I had taken a couple of books like your Manhattan Sentence Correction, your uh, CR Power Score Bible, all those things, right? So I think for SC at least, I went through that book at least thrice.
Mm,
That book and that videos at least thrice I had gone through. But yeah, once I had solved all the questions in the official guides, at one point I was like, okay, this is the max that I can do. Even if I go through the videos again, or even if I go through the book again, I am not really going to get anything more.
mm,
That is when I said, okay, okay, let me just schedule my exam for the next week and get it done with.
mm. Okay. So, when you said after the verbal, you started taking mock tests,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
How many mock tests did you take? And, when did you feel now you're ready to take the real test? Or did you actually already plan a date in hand and you were working towards that goal?
So I had initially planned a date, but because I started my preparation in April mid somewhere,
Mm,
and I had the idea that okay, I have to apply in round one for a couple of schools.
mm,
So September was sort of deadline. So for myself, I had kept a deadline of around July,
mm,
but that got extended
mm,
because I wasn't getting good in all the mocks and everything.
mm,
So initially, once the preparation part was done, at that point, I just looked at the next available date because I didn't want to give the GMAT from home. I wanted to give it from the center only.
mm,
I looked at what is the next available date where I will have at least 10-15 days to get my application prepared.
mm.
And accordingly, I just picked that date and then worked around it.
Right, right. So interesting that you said that, you went through the course multiple times, you can went through the official guide multiple times. So when
Yeah.
you say multiple times, like what did you mean by say going through OG multiple times? Did you like solve each and every question again?
Yeah. Yeah.
Was it only selected questions again? How did you go about it?
So I had like the 2017 OG and the 2018 OG. So I went through them one question by one question.
Mm,
And then, like, whichever questions I was not able to get correct,
mm,
I had circled them, and those particular ones I would repeat.
okay.
But then, after, let's say, like after 20 days or something, when I was still getting stuck or when I was still getting particular questions in a section correct or incorrect, rather, that's when I would go back to the videos, see how they have actually gone through it,
Mm,
then come back, then solve all the particular questions of that particular section.
mm. So, Samir, you ended up with, an amazing score, right? A 750 on the test. So, if you have to say today, if people come to you for advice, what are the top three things you will actually tell them?
So I think first thing would be that we have to be consistent.
Mm,
Even if you're giving half an hour a day, I think that's fine. But every day you have to slog at it. Like there's no other way around because it happened with me also. I'm
mm,
sure it will happen with others also. Like you can learn something or you can understand something, but if you don't do it every day, after 15 days, 20 days, 1 month, you'll forget it. So that's the first thing I would say. Second thing is more than what you know, it's a test of pressure and your concentration at that point of time. Because even like in my case, I actually started the exam with my quant section.
mm,
And because of the pressure, I actually wanted to double check every question that I was doing.
mm,
Even though I knew the answer was correct, even though like there were some questions where I had actually solved them in my mind.
mm,
But I wanted to do it on paper just to be sure because it's the GMAT exam. I don't want to get it wrong, right?
mm,
That actually ended up resulting in like me having around 15 minutes for the last 15 questions or something.
mm,
So that pressure is very real. And I think mock tests are a good way to actually help you with it. But at the end of the day, yes, the actual exam pressure is going to be different.
mm. Right.
So I think those two are the main things. Apart from that, I think content wise, it's not something rocket science. You can obviously go through it, you can learn it.
Right. Did you maintain an error log, or was there something that you always made sure you stuck to throughout your preparation in terms of one part is, yes, consistency. Second, more like managing an error log, or sometimes even evaluating the questions you got right. Right? Did you
Yeah.
actually focus on those aspects also?
Yeah, so initially, like what I was doing was I was actually going through the part tests or the sectional tests that are there on the Crackverbal website, on GMAT Club, on all these places, and I was actually trying to understand that okay, within each section or within each topic,
Mm.
what are the areas where I'm actually getting wrong. So in terms of error log, that is what I was trying to do initially.
Right.
Once I had gone through that, like every topic wise, after that the focus was more on getting in practice for mixed set of questions where you're doing all types of questions and then just looking at that okay, what are the questions that I got wrong
Mm.
and what is the main connection in them. So sometimes it would just be that like the major problem I had was in data sufficiency because I took one particular case and I solved and I marked the answer, but there were three, four different cases that had to be actually looked at.
Mm.
So that was something that I did. But yeah, in terms of the correct questions or in terms of going through why a particular question was correct,
Mm.
I did that initially only for verbal, specifically for SC,
Mm.
because again, CR and RC was something that I felt it's more something in my control.
Mm.
Initially, I did that for sentence correction, but then at a later stage, when I was doing the mocks and everything, at that time I was just looking at okay, how many questions did I not get, what were they, which type were they, and then focus on only those.
Right. So, in terms of your last leg of the preparation, right? Did you focus only on say tough questions, or what was your strategy in the last leg? Last couple of weeks, maybe before you finally took your test.
Right. So like in the last 2 weeks I focused only on the verbal section and only on data sufficiency.
Mm.
So within the official guide I think there are some two additional books that come in that you
Mm.
can purchase.
Mm.
So in the last 2 weeks I was only going through them
Mm.
and I was only doing mocks. So I was giving a mock every day at 7 a.m.
Mm.
and whatever questions I would get wrong in the mock, those I would then look at in the evening.
Right.
And within your uh, MBA.com portal as well, there are certain around 90 questions that are there for free.
Mm.
So those questions I would go through. So the last 2 weeks was only around your official questions as much as you can do.
Right, right. What did you plan your D-Day? Like, for example, what time you will take the test, what you will eat during breaks, or because this is a big amongst test takers, right? They always have this thing that eat a chocolate, eat a banana, keep your carbs, energy level high. So, what was your strategy around that?
So for me, like the biggest thing was that I had to be awake because, like I said, I usually work in the US shift, so my day ends at 6 a.m.
Mm.
So by default, my body is geared for, like, okay, 6 a.m., I'll just shut off and I'll sleep.
Mm.
So for me, the exam was starting at 8 a.m. So for me, the biggest thing was I have to be awake.
Mm.
And that's why for the last like 1 week or so, I did all my mocks in that time only. I did it at 8 a.m. only.
Mm.
I changed my work timings for a week or so. But yeah, I had that flexibility that I can change it by a few hours, but still, your body needs time to adjust, right? So for me, when I went in the exam, I was like high on coffee. I had a huge glass of coffee. And in the break, also, I had taken a Red Bull with me so that at least for the quant and verbal sections, I'm awake.
Mm.
After that, the AWA and IR is still fine. Like, I'll
Mm.
get through that.
Right. And did you strategize which order to take, which one to take first? Was there any strategy around that aspect, verbal or quant?
Yeah. Like,
Mm.
first, I went in with quant because that's the strong point. So,
Okay.
start with your strong thing.
Okay. 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 Awesome. How did you feel after you saw the score? What was your first thought?
The first thought was like I was happy, but at the same time, there was this feeling that probably I could have gotten more. So because in the mocks I was normally getting around 760, 770, but 750 is a good enough score. Like I'm happy with that. Again, like can't go through the entire process again just for a marginal increase.
Yeah, absolutely. I think 750 is a great score. At least it can get you, it will definitely help you get to the schools and, you are aiming for. And it is at least not your cause of concern as of
Yeah,
now. So I
yeah.
think that is definitely a great score. Congratulations once again. And I'm sure. So, what is your next plan now? 2022 intake. How are you planning to go about with your application part?
So I like actually I applied last year itself to IIM Ahmedabad and ISB.
Okay,
Got through both of them,
awesome.
and currently like I was going to join ISB, but for some reasons at work I had to defer that.
Okay.
So instead of this year, I'll be joining ISB next year.
Okay, so 2022 intake.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
awesome. Congratulations, Samir. That is awesome. Even, double congratulations on that. I think great score and an ISB admit. I think with your kind of experience and background, ISB will be a great fit for you for your next steps in future too. All the best for that. And I think all the best for the next 1 year, whatever you have planned, so that, you can gear up for an MBA even better because you have so much more time to think through
Yeah.
what you want to and how you want to make the most of it. So all the best, for that, Samir.
Thank you. Thanks again.